there's more of a hockey player than just hockey. Like, we're not just at the gym training for 8 hours a day in the summer, skating all day.
What's going on, everybody? We have an awesome guest today. We're going to travel to the north to Canada. Professional hockey player Zack Hayes is going to join us. He has Hayes Outdoors, and he's a big-time hunter and fisherman, as well as being a big hockey player. So we're going to get right to Zack after I tell you about this. If you want to support the podcast, the best way that you could possibly support the podcast is support our sponsors, and Black Rifle Coffee is the #1 sponsor. The best thing about Black Rifle Coffee, in my opinion, besides it being America's coffee, it's made in America, and it employs a tremendous amount of veterans, which that is fantastic. But I love the Coffee Club. The Coffee Club is a fantastic way for you to support the podcast and also get the best coffee in the world. This is what I got this week or this month on the Coffee Club. I got the AK Espresso, and I also got some ready to drink. They have an app where you can go in and you can change your subscription every single month. You can add things, take away things. You can get other things like the rounds. If you're a Keurig person, you can get Black Rifle Coffee in these rounds, and you can have it delivered to you every month. So the best way to do that is to go to blackriflecoffee.com, or you can go and look at the specific link in the bio of Tom Rowland Podcast or Tom Rowland on Instagram, and you can click the Black Rifle Coffee link there. Use code BLASTOFF25 and you'll get 25% off your first month in the Coffee Club. So that's a fantastic way. Now we're headed to the Great North, and we're going to talk with Zack Hayes, professional hockey player, and learn a little bit about hunting and fishing and playing professional hockey. All right, here we go.
Hey everyone, I'm Zack Hayes, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Zack Hayes, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on here. So we were just talking before the podcast started about your hockey career and where you got some exciting news. What's going on with you right now?
Yeah, so in about 5 hours, I'm heading over to Finland, in Vasa, Finland. The league is Liga, so it's Liiga. It's like the first top league in Finland, and the city is right along the Gulf, across from Sweden.
All right.
So it's pretty far up there, but it'll be a cool spot.
Well, I'm assuming you've been in that area to play hockey, but maybe have you lived there?
Nope. That's my first time. I've never played hockey overseas yet. This is my first time, whether it was either being younger or tournaments and stuff like that. I've never played overseas, so this is going to be first experience, and living over there till season ends in about March. So it'll be cool to live over there for the next 7 months.
Okay. Did you look into the fishing? I think Finland
A
has
little
some
bit.
pretty good fishing.
Yeah, I've heard that actually Vasa, the town, as one of the top places to go fishing, just because it's on the Gulf and there's a lot of lakes nearby as well. So I'm talking to a bunch of old teammates and guys that have that lived in Sweden and kind of lived in Finland as well, see what they say. So hopefully can get out like reindeer hunting as well, or
Wow.
something like that, and then try and get out, maybe get a charter. I don't know what kind of fish they'd have in there.
Yeah.
I know they've got they've got muskie in Sweden, like in that brackish water. I think that's what it calls, where it's like half salt, half.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I know they've got like muskies and stuff like that in Sweden. So I'm assuming that it'd be the same in Finland, but everything that I Google is all Finnish, so it's
Yeah.
a little bit tougher.
Yeah. Not quite as friendly for a Canadian to read all of that.
Yeah.
So tell me, just so everybody gets to know you a little bit. Tell me about your hockey career so far.
Yeah. So I born and raised in Calgary, so played there with my minor hockey, and then quadrant hockey with the AAA North Stars, Calgary North Stars. There played there from it'd be Bantam and midget AAA, and then I ended up getting drafted to the Prince Albert Raiders in the WHL, and then signed there. So I played my 17-year-old season all the way through my 20-year-old season, so 4 years. Played there. We won a championship. We won the WHL championship and went to the Memorial Cup in Halifax my 19-year-old season, which was probably the most fun year of hockey I've ever been a part of. And then, went back for my 20-year-old year, and then ended up signing a AHL contract with the Henderson Silver Knights, so Vegas's farm team. after that, and that was like kind of right when COVID hit.
Mm.
So then I had that whole winter, and then we ended up going in January and had the shortened season. And so then I had my first pro season, which was the shortened one. We played about 30 games. And then about halfway through that, I signed an entry level contract with Vegas, a 2 year.
Right
So
on.
then I was there for the next year, played mostly with Henderson and had a couple games up with Vegas, played 3 NHL games, one in Minnesota, one in Winnipeg, and then one in Vegas against Nashville.
Wow.
And then, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then this last year, started in Henderson, got traded to Carolina's farm team. So was in Chicago with the Wolves. And then traded again at the deadline to New Jersey's farm team. So ended up in Utica, New York.
Wow.
And then now off to Finland.
All right. Off to Finland. Wow. Well, that's
Yeah,
quite a career already. How old are you?
24.
24. Wow, you've already
Yeah.
had quite the career. All right, so in order to get to know you and for the audience to get to know you a little bit better, we're going to put you on the hot seat. We're going to ask you a series
Sounds
of
good.
kind of silly questions, but they're kind of either or. First thing that comes to your mind. All right, so you ready?
Yep.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink?
Coffee.
Would you have a reptile as a pet?
No.
Me either. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Ice fishing or summer fishing?
Summer fishing.
Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
What tech device do you rely on the most?
Probably my phone.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
Winter.
Yeah, of course. You're
Yeah.
a winter
Yeah.
guy all
It
way
is,
around.
it is close though. There's a lot of good sports in the Summer
There are.
Olympics.
I like watching the track and field. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Football or
exactly. There's just so
basketball?
many. Football.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly.
To fly. Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Now this one might be a little bit out of your current situation, but sharks or tarpon?
Ooh, I think sharks would be
Okay.
sharks.
All right. Do you prefer breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
Office, Friends, or Parks and Rec?
I've never seen any of them.
Okay, there you go. None of them.
But
Mount-
I've heard good things about them all, but I've never seen them
Yeah.
all.
Mountains or beaches?
Mountains.
Would you shop local? Would you prefer to shop local or Amazon?
Probably local.
Fly or drive?
Drive.
Morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Okay, so we're going to finish up with this one because this is the one I'm most interested in. What's your birthday?
April 24th, 1999.
April 24th. Okay, so I read the book Outliers about professional hockey players. It said like there were a wild majority born in February or March, and you're born in April. So you're right.
Yeah.
You're right in there. And does
Yeah.
that ring true for you? Do you think that's true in your
Well,
experience?
so the whole concept behind that is that just because you're, let's say, a 99 birth year, not every single person born in that birth year is in the same draft class.
Right.
So if you're born from January to like September, I don't know, there's a date in September, it's like the 11th or the 12th or something like that. There's a date in September. So if you're born from January 1st to September 15th, let's say halfway through, you're in the 99 draft class. But if you're born after September 15th, you are in the next draft class.
Right.
So there's a lot of people say that if you're born in like January, February, March, you just have more time you're more developed by the time the hockey season comes in October than someone that's maybe born in October. So that's why they have that rule, that kind of like weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the year. So I definitely noticed that, but it's all just kind of how a lot of guys have played less pro hockey, like 1 year less pro hockey, just because they've born a little bit later.
Right.
So it is definitely interesting to like look and do research into.
I mean, that book was super interesting, just the way that he explained it. And like, you're basically a year older, and
Yeah.
as you're a year older, I mean, like what he was saying, and I've never actually had the opportunity to ask a real professional hockey player about this, if that was just a really interesting chapter, or if it rings true, because he was saying, when the scouts come, the older kids are obviously bigger, stronger, faster, better, have a little bit more experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they end up going, to the best camp or to the best whatever. And that goes all the way through their career. It was very interesting.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it's like that with many other sports, but he picked hockey, and that was pretty cool. The whole book was cool. That's where the whole 10,000 hours came from, and all of
Okay.
that. Yeah. But, yeah. So you're right in there in April,
Hmm.
pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah. So tell me about growing up did you grow up in Calgary?
Yeah.
So tell me about growing up in Calgary and balancing this love of hunting and fishing with obvious being really good at hockey and playing and trying to do both.
Yeah. So like growing up, obviously just being from the city, it's a little bit tougher to like you're not really exposed to like the outdoors as much as if you're running from the country. But fortunately for me, like my parents grew both born and raised in super small towns, kind of northeast of Calgary, about 4 hours. So always went back there, and that's where we always go back hunting, and where we have a lot of family there, so we always end up going back there. And then my grandpa had or bought a lakefront property on one of the lakes, kind of northwest of Calgary, about 2.5 hours. So we'd go up there and spend most of our summers up there. We'd go up and spend 2 weeks there. So that's where I learned to fish. Caught my first fish was there. So just kind of, especially growing up, don't really like think about it as much. And um, when I turned 12, trying to find time to go hunting in such a busy hockey season. It was a lot easier when it was like just community hockey and all that stuff. So then once it ended up getting to quadrant hockey, so like AAA, AA, lost kind of that opportunity to go hunting, which at the end of the day, it worked out. But at the time, you're like, really want to go hunting, but also like really like hockey at the same time. So it's kind of that give and take with everything.
Yeah.
But I was able to go fishing all the time every summer and spend a lot of time out at the lake. And then kind of as the time's gone on, haven't really been able to get out hunting for a couple years, other than there's like a couple times where I came back, like I had a funeral. So then I was able to take a little bit of time to go hunting there while I was back in Canada. And then I really started to get into bow hunting just because with at least with North American camps, they don't usually start until mid-September, where in Alberta you can start bow hunting September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really started to get into that over the last probably 5-6 years.
Nice.
And then spring bear hunting as well, because that allows me to get out and go hunting. And more than anything, it's just to get out with the guys. Then, like, I don't really care if I shoot a bear. Like, I want it to be the right bear. I'm not just going out to go shoot any bear just because. But it's more just getting out with your buddies and going out hunting and kind of just being in that experience with your buddies for 5-10 days, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. And then so, but then as time's gone on, it's definitely gotten harder in pro hockey, because you have so much commitment in the summers with training and making sure you're honing your craft. So it's kind of, but also at the same time, it's kind of finding that balance of, okay, this is your job, but it's a 365-day a year job, because if you slack off for a certain amount of time, you notice that, because your body has to be in the best shape possible, or the best shape that you can be in.
Sure.
But at the same time, you also have to listen to yourself mentally and take time away to almost balance that out, because rest is a weapon at the same time as going hard in the gym for 3 or 4 hours a day every day, because you're just going to get burnt out. So that's kind of, for me, is going to the lake on the weekends. Like I will work out from Monday to Thursday, and then I'll go to the lake Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go out fishing.
Nice.
Kind of my relaxation. So then come Monday, I'm ready to get back in the gym and feel energized and feel rested, and then do it all over again.
That's awesome. Tell me about the archery. What bow are you shooting right now?
So I shoot a Bowtech.
Okay. And do you notice, like, obviously to make it as far along in your hockey career as you have, I find that if you, in my situation, it's fly fishing. That's where I did well in fly fishing. And then as you go to something else and you start taking up like archery or whatever, you notice some similarities about, okay, well, this is kind of similar to, something in hockey, of
Yeah.
getting really, really good at something. I was wondering what kind of comparisons you draw, especially with archery, because it requires a tremendous amount of practice, at least for me. But it
Yeah.
seems like, there's getting the equipment all dialed in, and then there's the practice, and then there's, trying to repeat it the same way each time. And I would imagine that there are some comparisons that you could draw to some of the training and skills that you've gotten really good at in hockey.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest thing is just paying attention to like the little details, because in hockey, paying attention to the little details of being in the right position, or um, the way you hold your hands when you shoot the puck
Mm-hmm.
or pass the puck or receive a puck, or just listening to the systems and listening to what the coaches say, is a huge thing. It's just paying attention to the little details, where paying attention to the details, even when you're shooting archery, is almost just as important, because I noticed that this year I was fortunate enough to harvest a whitetail for the first time with my bow, and I was recording it and slowed it right down, and I caught myself, just because first time I've ever let an arrow go at an animal. I'm trying to watch it go, but as I release, I kind of move the one way, so it kicks my arrow out a little bit, so it doesn't fly as straight.
Mm-hmm.
So those are like the little details of making sure you're anchored properly, making sure you're breathing properly, you release on your down breath, and kind of pay attention to those details when you're practicing shooting. So then when it comes to game time, which is out in the field actually hunting, you're prepared and in the best way possible.
Hmm.
And whereas it's the same thing as you practice all week to get ready for your games in hockey, so then you're most prepared for that game on the weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting that you go right to the tape. Like you went to watch yourself shoot that arrow to make sure that things were going well. That's exactly what you do with hockey. You guys get together and then watch tape of the game and see exactly what went right, what went wrong. I'm sure the coaches are pointing out things that you could do better, and you at this level you already see them as well as they do, I would imagine. But archery for me is like it's a it's a release of like, I don't know, it's just kind of a zen kind of thing where you're trying to do the same thing over and over and over again, and there's like a nice release of tension or whatever you're worried about. You can't really worry about that and be very effective at archery. So everything else, it clears the head, because you really need to be solely focused on what you're doing. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I do notice a lot of similarities to other things, and draw some conclusions to other things in my life besides, just getting good at casting or something like that. It's like it all requires so much practice. But the bow is awesome. Love that. I'm getting ready to go elk
Yeah.
hunting next week in Montana
Nice.
with my
I'm
boys.
jealous.
Man, this is my
That'll be
favorite.
awesome.
It's pretty much my favorite week of the year. We go to Montana. Both my sons live in Montana, and they're actually right at your age. One's 25 and one's 23, and they that's what they like to do, elk hunting. And so I go out there and try to keep up with them. It's a good time, man. Well, but mostly we're all trying to keep up with the elk. The elk is a
Yeah.
incredibly athletic animal, and they just so effortlessly go up and down these hills. Like, and I'll get my binoculars out. You look up on this hill, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty steep. And so it's like, well, we need to go over there. And you get up to where they were just casually grazing. They just look like they're so comfortable. And you get up there, and literally you're like holding on to the side of the mountain
Yeah.
because it is so steep. And you're just like, I don't see how they're capable of doing what they do, and it's just effortless. They got to be
Yep.
one of the most incredible animals, certainly the most incredible animal that I've ever hunted. But I mean, I'm still thinking like cardiovascularly and just being tough and having to deal with the bears and the wolves and the mountain lions and everything, and just
Hmm.
being able to live in that environment is just, I don't know. I get more respect for them every time I go. Um,
Yeah, I haven't been able to get elk hunting out as much as I'd like, but I think it's definitely my most favorite. Well,
yeah,
just like them being receptive to calls, calling back, especially when they're right in the rut, is
yeah,
like you're just sitting there. It's the coolest thing ever.
yeah.
Like you're saying, they're 1,500-pound animals, and they're going up these mountains like they're nothing. And for being in herds like they are, like you see herds of, especially like out in the farmland, you see herds of like 100 of them one day, and then they're gone like ghosts
I
the
know.
next. And it's like, how can a herd of 100 animals with that weigh 1,500 pounds, how do they just disappear like that?
I know.
And then no one knows where they are. Like it's the craziest. They're the craziest animals ever. They're
They
ghosts.
are. So I would imagine that you're hunting some really big whitetails uh, around where you grew up, right? Is that what you mostly
Yeah,
hunt?
yeah. There's
Bear and the
definitely
whitetail.
Yeah, there's out there. There's definitely like a good mix of mule deer and whitetails, and there's some big deer that I get up there. Unfortunately, I've never seen one live, but I also haven't been able to get out as much as I would like. But that's kind of the pros and cons of the hockey part of it. But
Yeah.
get out when you can to when you get out when you can to get your fix, and then go off and do your hockey thing, and especially um, going to like new countries and playing all these new places is trying to find those opportunities elsewhere. Like when I was in Vegas, it was a little bit tougher just because it's the desert.
Right.
But was trying to get out turkey hunting when I was in New York, and going to try and look at opportunities here in Finland now. Just to you might as well, like if you're living there,
Right.
you might as well try and find an opportunity to do something that maybe you'd never have done if you didn't weren't in this position.
Hmm. As far as like the locker room goes, are most I would imagine that you have people from all over. Certainly, Canada is a hotbed, but all over the United States too. What's the percentage of people that are into the outdoors? Do you think, as far as hockey players, in your
Ooh.
experience, is it common or
Um,
not common or
It's Fishing's definitely a common one.
yeah?
Like most of the guys have either fished at some point or um, like to do it every now and again. I wouldn't say like there's a lot of hardcore guys, but there's probably two or three guys on every team that I've been on that either like to hunt and fish, or at least are like pretty big into fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a couple oddities of guys that are like, yeah, I go to my cabin and I'll go try and fish. Like they're just more doing it just to go out, have a good time, probably go on the boat or
Yeah.
whatever they want to do, and just sit with a line in the water. But then there's probably like three or four guys that are like, nowhere, like if let's say we're walleye fishing, they're like, okay, there's this drop off here. We have to be at 22 feet. Use this bait at this time of the year. Oh, the water's dirty. We got to change up the bait what we're using. So there's probably two or three guys on every team that I've been a part of that take it pretty seriously and want to try and whether they want to go try and do because a lot of them have been Americans. Whether they want to go try and do these big fishing tournaments or not, that's kind of some of their goals. But just so then when they bring out people, they can catch big fish,
Yeah.
know where the hot spots are.
Man, I tell you, Canada, from my experience, I took a trip to Canada with my dad when I was 18 years old. And when I look back on it, at the time, I don't know that it was as impactful to me as I realized that it was now. But looking back on it, that trip um, really pushed me in a different direction than maybe I would have gone. And we went to northern Saskatchewan to Reindeer Lake. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, yep.
It's such an amazing place. I mean, I just loved that place, and the pike and walleye and lake trout. We caught grayling up there. It was just an amazing trip. And man, Canada is just full of places like that. I mean, so many places and so many great lakes. That northern kind of area is very intriguing to me. I haven't been back, but I want to, and I want to take my all my kids with me because it was such an important trip to me. And that lodge is incredibly well run. That Reindeer Lake Lodge. Stayed in
Yeah.
touch with that guy that runs that place, and just awesome. Do you get up there much?
So when I was playing in Prince Albert, we'd go up fishing in Montreal Lake. But that was kind of the farthest north we ever went, just because we only had a day off every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
And then unfortunately, haven't been able to get back up there. Um, and then haven't really been too far north, just kind of more the Athabasca
Might not
area
have
for
to, right?
fishing.
I mean,
Yeah, and
it's
then yeah, so then kind of been up there, but there are like a lot of those lakes up there, like northern Saskatchewan, northern Alberta. Some of them you have to fly into,
yeah,
but like there's a lot of those lakes that are untouched.
I
There's
know.
fish in there that have probably never even seen a hook.
I know. It's amazing. And you look at the map and you're just like, I don't even, I guess you could just get dropped off there. But then you have to spend a week out there I mean, which could be cool, but you kind of get the a similar type deal with that guy that owns the Reindeer Lake Lodge. He has several different programs, some more primitive than others, where you fly out to a different lake and spend a
Hmm.
night or two in a primitive cabin, and the fishing is just amazing. I'm going to go duck hunting in Canada too. In a couple of weeks actually, and we're going into Edmonton. Do you know where that is?
Yep, yep, that's just north of Calgary.
Yeah, so we're gonna go there and duck hunt. Do you ever do any duck hunting?
Nice. No, I haven't yet. Like I've puddle jumped
Yeah.
like with a shotgun, tried to shoot some off the sloughs and stuff like that, but I've never gone full out duck hunting just because season opens September 1st,
Oh,
so it's
right.
always that do I want to go duck hunting for a weekend or do I want to go whitetail hunting or mule deer hunting
Right.
for a weekend? And I always go whitetail or deer. I always go deer hunting. So
Yeah. Well, the reason I picked this one is because my dad's 85 years old. Duck hunting is his favorite style of hunting. He not really a deer hunter. He never really was, and he loves bird hunting and particularly duck hunting. But at 85, I was really looking for a place that we could go that didn't require waiters, didn't no boats involved. Like,
yeah.
it kind of needs to be a little easier than some duck hunting. And most of the duck hunting that we've done when I grew up is it's pretty miserable. I mean, if you're going to explain it to somebody, most people would look at you and be like, why do you want to do that? Like, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you get out to a frozen lake, you bust through the ice in a small John boat. Somebody's probably going in and getting wet. It's 20
Yeah.
degrees, and then you sit out there and wait for the ducks to come, and they usually don't. And then you go home and eat at the Waffle House. It sounds amazing, for the tradition and everything that I had when I was growing up with my dad. But
Hmm.
explaining that to somebody else it doesn't. You don't get a lot of people that are like, man, can I go? Like, that sounds amazing. So on
Yeah.
this trip, I researched it, and this is dry field hunting, and
Yep.
the ducks and geese just pour in here. So we're going to do it in October. So I got two awesome hunting trips coming up, and both of them. One of them is close to Canada in Montana, but then the other is up there. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Tell me about Hayes Outdoors.
Yeah. So kind of the first time that I kind of thought about it was right during COVID. Like, just had a lot of time on my hands, and I was like, well, going into pro hockey and going into a place like Las Vegas, like just being from Canada, you kind of always want to. You always think about like people's political views and all that stuff, especially with hunting and fishing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's always has the biggest target on its back. So I was like, well, if I'm going into Las Vegas, like obviously it's a big center, really close to California. There's a lot of people from California that go and live there. So there's probably some people that might like me as a hockey player and like me as a person, but doesn't want to see a dead deer on their Instagram feed. And then I have some family members that are also vegetarian, and it's the same thing. Like, she doesn't want to see a dead animal on my Instagram feed, but she's also not gonna say, no, you're not allowed to go hunting.
Right.
So it's just kind of one of those things that I was like, well, it's gonna be, and I want to post a lot of, I'm gonna go fishing all the time. I want to go post picture of it, but I don't want my Instagram just to be completely hunting and fishing. I would
Mhm.
love that, but some people that might want to follow me and see what I'm doing with my hockey career might not want to see that. So I was like, okay, well, let's just create some sort of Instagram account where I can post all this stuff and kind of do what I want with it, and it'll just be a separate entity, and I can bring stuff over to my main account if I really like it, or just to kind of promote it and send people that way if they want to follow more of a different side of me.
Yeah.
Not so there's the hockey side and like the professional side on the one account, and then a little bit of hunting and a little bit of more me, but then also there's this. So it's kind of both of them come together to kind of describe who I am as a person. So then met up with a couple buddies, or met up with a couple guys online who are now really good friends, and they have a hunting show on the Sportsman channel
Okay.
up in Canada. So then kind of just picked their brain and kind of learned a bunch of things. So then I was like, well, maybe I'll start recording videos and stuff like that. So create a YouTube account, get a GoPro, and just kind of do everything with my phone and GoPro for the last 2.5 years now. I think it'd be about that now. So yeah, just kind of started making YouTube videos, just going up to the lake, just trying to kind of grow something, just so then maybe down the road, if I can develop it enough and kind of show people that there's more to a hockey player than just hockey.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just at the gym training for 8 hours a day in the summer, skating all day, go home, go to sleep. Like, there's a lot more to hockey players than just hockey and golf, because everyone thinks, oh, you're a hockey player, you golf. Like, so, and then I've just kind of started to develop more of the YouTube side of it, start to create a lot more videos. Obviously, can't do it as much as I would like, but hopefully down the road, it get a lot of more opportunities going like to Finland, doing a lot of that, and kind of show people how conservation works in other countries. And maybe who knows, you go fishing or you go hunting over there and you see something that you like, and maybe there's rules or laws over there that you've now gotten accustomed to, that maybe one day you can try and bring that over to where you are and try and make conservation in your area that much better.
Yeah.
Especially going from like Prince Albert, Saskatchewan to Alberta, just on the fishing aspect of it. The way that they run their fisheries is they do have bigger lakes and they've got a little bit less people, but I'd say like the Saskatchewan government fisheries are a lot more like they're a lot better than the ones in Alberta, just because of like how they've run it with slot limits, how many you can keep in certain lakes, just because there's a lot of lakes down here that you used to be able to keep fish, but no longer can. Where in Saskatchewan, in almost every lake, you can keep fish. And whether that's just because we have more people fishing them,
Okay.
or just the weather or whatever that is, but for some reason, like, their fisheries are just more superior to ours. And it doesn't seem like a lot of the time people are doing the right things up top and like the government aspect of it to maybe help those fisheries. Because
And
one of the lake that I usually go to, we used to be able to keep 3 northern pike over 63 centimeters and 1 walleye over 50 or 55 centimeters. And then they found out, then they cut out all pike. You couldn't keep any pike, no size limit, and you could only keep walleye between 45 and 50. And then they're like, where's all the pike going? Like, we're not keeping them anymore. Like, why is the populations going down so much? So then we talked to a CO one time when he came onto the lake, and he's like, yeah, we found out that the walleye are actually more aggressive and they're eating all the northern pike when they're young.
really?
So that's why they're trying to balance out the walleye to northern pike population, because everyone thinks that the pike are more aggressive and they're the ones eating the walleye. But for some reason, according to the CO is that the walleye are eating the smaller pike. So that's why the population's gone. And we've definitely noticed it over the last couple of years. They've gotten smaller, skinnier, and just not as many of them.
Wow.
So it's definitely like trial and error. And you can kind of go into that with hunting, like with the mule deer population and how whitetail is a general tag all the time, but you see so many more mule deer. So there's so much that can probably be learned, and whether you need money to from hunting tags and stuff like that to really test it out, or you just need someone to come in with a new idea.
Right.
But there's always room for improvement, especially because at the end of the day, conservation is the biggest thing, because you want to be able to have hunting and fishing down the road for multiple generations.
Sure, but conservation is a good message. Like you were saying that some people don't might not want to see hunting and fishing pictures on your Instagram, but at the same time, you've got a great opportunity to educate people that don't understand how
Mm-hmm.
hunting and fishing can be a conservation tool. And I mean, it's really both of them are the best tool in the United States. We have a tax, a self-imposed tax on all hunting and fishing gear that goes back to the resource and management of the resource.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, I mean, PETA's not giving any money to that. Like no
Yeah.
one, none of the other organizations are helping to pay the game wardens or building boat ramps or making sure that we have proper law enforcement out there. I mean, that's all coming from hunters and fishermen in the United States, and it's been
Yeah.
a huge success there. But honestly, most people that don't hunt and fish don't know that. Even though Johnny Morris put an entire giant museum in Missouri, all dedicated to, it's called the Wonders of Wildlife Museum. If you ever go there for any hockey reason or any reason, you should definitely
Mm-hmm.
go there. It's an incredible museum, and throughout the whole thing, the whole theme of the whole museum, and it's a masterpiece of a museum, and the whole theme is how hunters and fishermen have made such an incredible impact in the conservation of all these different species and different habitats, and without hunters and fishermen, man, I don't even know if there would be habitat, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think you have a great opportunity to educate as much as people listen to people they see on TV and playing sports and stuff. They'll listen to you. So you got a great opportunity with that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's been on my mind especially when I started the account. It was like, I can definitely, you just have to have the right audience. If someone doesn't want to, someone comes to you and they're like, you're doing this wrong, like hunting is bad, and they have that closed mindset of it, you're not going to be able to change their mind.
Right.
But if you have the right audience where they're open to learning and they're like, okay, maybe it's not something that I want to do personally, but I can appreciate why you do it, why you hunt, why you fish, and the conservation efforts behind that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have someone that is open to hearing about those talks, it's a lot bigger. Like one of the biggest things that I've noticed, just because when I do try and promote hunting and stuff like that on my accounts over the last couple of years, it's mostly been bear hunting. And bear hunting, just because they're furry creatures, is the worst one. Like everyone hates people that hunt bears for whatever reason, just because maybe they're cute or whatever. You're shooting like in Alberta, you can shoot them off baits, which is a lot. It's actually a great way to be able to hunt them, because then you can make sure you're shooting the right bear. You're shooting the right boar, an old mature one.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are like, well, what do you do with it? They're like, you don't eat the bear, do you? Like, and all this stuff. And they're like, why are you shooting these animals just to, and they have no reason, they have no understanding what you do with it. Where in like Alberta, you have to take the hide. You don't have to eat the meat. But for something, one of the things that I really believe in, especially after shooting a bear 2 years ago, is like bear meat, I think, is one of the most underrated meats out there.
Yeah.
It's not gamey. You can shoot, or you can cook it to 165, and it's still the same tender as a medium rare steak.
Yeah. A lot of people love bear.
Yeah. And like the fat, if you really want to go hardcore into it and render down the fat and stuff like that, it's great for your skin. It's great to cook with. Like there's so many things that you can do with animals like that, with bears, that people don't really take advantage of.
Yeah.
But then that's one of the things that someone maybe with more of a closed mindset on hunting, and they're like, why are you shooting these animals? Like you don't do anything with them. They're not open to seeing these things that can be done with the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the big things when I was up in Prince Albert is this First Nations guy, he loved shooting bears just because he loved the bear grease for his skin. It helped his skin moisturize, and then he used it to cook as well.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where I kind of learned all that from and took a new appreciation for it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. What about the fishing? As far as like, I don't know what other species you would have up there, but the lake trout, the walleye, the northern pike, those were fantastic fish. Loved that. Of those three, which do you prefer to fish for the most?
Um, I've never gone specifically lake trout fishing yet. I want to. It's definitely you have to go a lot farther north. Um, the pike are definitely more of a fight, but I
Mm-hmm.
like walleye fishing just because you can keep them,
Yeah,
and I like having a fresh fish for supper.
sure.
So that's probably my favorite one. Um, yeah, and then same thing with perch too. There's a couple lakes that have perch, and those are unbelievable to eat as well. But I'd probably say walleye is my favorite.
Yeah, you get some big ones up there too, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, that's a great fish. I loved all of them. When we were in Saskatchewan, we had shore lunches every day, and they would just keep one of the fish that you had. It would be enough to feed everybody. And I thought I was surprised actually, because I thought I would like walleye or lake trout the best, but I like pike the best. I thought it was by far the best of the three.
Yeah, pike is unbelievable. I really like it. You just have to be able to debone them properly or
Yeah.
know that there's going to be bones in it just because of how they're like the X and Y bones, I think they're called, like how they cross.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people stay away from them just because they're so bony, but I do like pike as well, but there's not many places where you can keep them in southern Alberta
Really.
anymore.
That's
Yeah.
that's interesting because they seem like a very prolific fish when you get further north, and that's the only experience I have with them really is
Yeah.
going further north, and it just seemed like they were everywhere and they were huge, and
Oh
it
yeah.
was it was it was awesome. I definitely want to go back, but I liked them. I liked fishing for them the best, and I thought that they were the best to eat. I mean, they were my favorite all around. I could just go up there and just fish for nothing but those, pretty easily. They fly fish for them up there too, and that seems
Yeah,
really
yeah. I was
fun.
just gonna say that me and my dad have started to try and get into fly fishing a little bit,
Yeah.
and well, I just think fly fishing is almost like hunting,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a river,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to know where you're going. You kind of scout out where you want to go and where you think there's going to be a fish, and you go there and you fish that spot. So I think fly fishing is almost like hunting
Yeah.
in
Well,
a way.
it is, and especially like where we're fishing in the Florida Keys, it is hunting, 100% hunting. You'll see a fish from as far as 200 yards away, and sometimes that fish is 6 foot long and 140 pounds. That'd be the tarpon, and they have a
Yeah,
black back over white sand. You can see them from so far away, and you have to make a real stealthy approach in a boat. So the guides in the back, with a push pole, moving
yeah,
into range with the wind, the tide, and the sun all as factors that you have to set it all up just perfectly, and then you make the cast. And that, to me, I grew up hunting and I grew up fishing, and I liked them about the same. I
hmm,
think. Well, I probably liked fishing a little bit more when I was growing up, but when I saw the first time I went to Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, I was in Yellowstone National Park, and the first time that I saw real clear water and trout holding in the current and walking up to them, and they see you and spook, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is a different kind of thing here. Like you got to crouch down and you got to move slow,
yeah,
and it's just like hunting, and then you make the cast and they eat it, and that changed my fishing career forever right there. I was like, okay, this is like hunting and fishing combined, like my two
yeah,
favorite things combined, and I just let the fish go, and I can do this all day long. This is so
yeah.
it was amazing, and I love that so much. When you're talking about fly fishing and getting into fly fishing, is that for trout, or what are you fishing for in the rivers?
Yeah, so it's mostly trout. Like there's bull trout,
Bull trout. Wow.
rainbow trout. Yeah. Then a couple other ones. Like one of the rivers that come through Calgary actually, I guess is one of the best fly fishing
Is that the
rivers.
bow?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I've heard
the
so
Bow
much
River.
about
It's
that
like
river.
world renowned.
World class, man. That is a phenomenal place. I used to have a lot of my customers would tell me about going there, and they would go there and they come, to Wyoming and fish with us. But lots of stories about the Bow.
Yeah,
Very.
that's it's one of those things where it's like it's in your like I've tried to fish the Bow, but not with a not with a fly rod. So and I've had zero luck. So then I've always just been like, like and river fishing's not for me. Other than I've gone a couple times fly fishing with buddies in smaller rivers, but one of the things I really want to do probably next summer is rent get a charter,
Yeah,
rent a boat and go with someone that knows what they're doing and
absolutely.
kind of pick their brain, learn how to do it. And just because I always go with buddies fly fishing that have fly fished before because I don't really know. Like I know you're supposed to go look at the bugs and look at the water, but
Hmm.
I don't really know for sure. Like I could go trial and error at, but if
Yeah,
you're going to drive an hour and a half, you're like
man,
you
I'm
want to
telling you,
hopefully give yourself the best chance.
I know for a fact that there are some world class guides on the Bow, and if you
Yeah,
get with one of those guys and you fish a couple of days, you'll go away from that. It, it'll be a similar situation to if somebody came and spent 2 days with you and learned about hockey. Like you could
yeah,
go and spend 2 days or a month or a whole winter out on the ice by yourself, and you might figure out a couple of things. But if they spend 2 days with you, they're going to be at an entirely different level immediately, a different understanding level,
yeah,
a different technical level. Everything is going to be better. You're going to cut through all the BS. You're going to tell them exactly what they need to do, and they're going to get better immediately. That's the same way
yeah,
that those fishing guides work. And if you spend, I mean, one day would be one of the best investments you could make. If you're interested in that kind of fishing, and you get with one of those guys that's really world class over there. And I'm sure that there's a ton of them that are huge hockey fans. So I don't think it's going to be a challenge. you,
yeah.
you,
Like the amount of times you're like, because I drive over the bow every single day to go work out, and I'm driving over and it's like 20 degrees out or whatever in the summer, or like 20 Celsius out.
hmm
The amount of boats you see floating down the river with fly fishermen on it is insane.
I mean, it's a full on industry on that river.
Yeah.
And then even north of that, there's even some other fishing that my son has traveled from Montana up into Canada, and he had amazing trout fishing up there. I mean, it
Hmm.
was fantastic. But that's really cool. So you were mentioning your YouTube and your social media. Tell us what those are.
Yeah, so if you're gonna find it, it's all the same. It's Hayz outdoors, all one word on YouTube and Instagram, and then there's also a Facebook page as well.
Okay. And which of those are you most active on?
Probably Instagram's the most. Facebook is my Facebook's attached to it, so I'll get a lot of the same posts. But if I have to schedule a post for whatever reason, if I'm on the road or going playing a game and I schedule a post on Instagram, it doesn't schedule, I guess, on Facebook as well. So there's a couple. You'll definitely get more content on the Instagram, a lot more active on that, and then on YouTube, it's all just depends. I'll usually post once a month if I can, and a little bit more if I get lucky and can get out fishing or hunting a lot more than I was expecting.
So what about your hockey account? What's that? Which one is that?
Yeah, so that's it's Hayes 24 is my personal hockey account.
Has that been your number? How long's that been your number?
I've actually never worn 24
Oh,
other than my first year of hockey in like Timbits they call it, like they're tyke or whatever.
uh-huh.
So it was my first year was 24, and then obviously my birthday April 24th. So then that's kind of just it's always been my favorite number, but I've never been able to wear it
Yeah.
just
What's
because
your
I've
number right
always come
now?
in
What was your last number?
65. So I've been
65.
65, yeah, 65 with Henderson, and then I was 5 in Chicago, 65 in Utica, going to be 65 again in Finland because 24. There's a lot of guys that like 24, so I always come into a team and 24 is always taken, so I never get it.
One of these days you'll get it.
Yeah,
You'll get it. Well, listen, man, it's been great to get to know you. I wish you the very best in Finland, and I'll be watching your account, both accounts, your hockey account and your outdoors account, to see what kind of fish are in Finland. I would imagine there's some really good fishing over there. I think you're
Oh
going to
yeah,
find
I'm
it.
excited for it. It should be a fun experience.
Yeah. All right. Well, you leave tonight, so I appreciate you coming on the show with short time. But it's been great to get to know you, and we'll be following you.
Sounds good. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Zach. See ya.